and welcome back. I'm Emma from Spotlight Mining in collaboration with the Mining Network, and we're here at the Mining Investment Event of the North, and I'm joined today with Tony Williams from Major Precious Metals. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Pleasure. So let's start by doing just a brief overview of everything, the ticker, market cap, project locations, etc.
Okay, well, the company is Major Precious Metals, Canadian listed company listed on the NEO exchange, which is a relatively new exchange, but probably Canada's fastest growing exchange for high-tech companies and green energy metals. The company has a market capitalization today of just over 20 million Canadian, or around 18 million US. There are just over 250 million shares outstanding, and it's trading just under 10 cents a share, having had a big sell-off along with the rest of the market. It has a number of exploration projects, but its flagship project is a project called Skaergaard, which is located in the central portion of the east coast of Greenland, around 450 kilometers from Reykjavik in Iceland, but about 1,000 kilometers from Nuuk, which is the capital of Greenland, which is on the west coast of Greenland. Geologically, it's a classic mafic intrusion, very similar to the Bushveld complex in South Africa. It's been known about as an intrusion, as a mafic intrusion, since the 1930s when it was discovered, and there have been many erudite scientific papers written about Skaergaard and its formation and its geology. But mineralization there was only discovered in the late 1980s, when it was looked at primarily as a gold project. Sporadically over the next 2 decades, it was drilled again, looking for gold, but PGMs, platinum group metals, were also recognized. For over a decade, it was forgotten as a project until our group acquired it in November 2020.
So before we get too into Skaergaard, I think we can just set a bit of context with your background and how you kind of got to where you are today.
I'm a mining geologist by training in the Royal School of Mines, the best mining school in the world. And I worked in the industry for about 15 years. Then I had a decade in investment banking with a firm called Yorkton Securities, which became, in its era, the largest provider of development and exploration finance for mid-tier companies. And for the last 20 years plus, I've been principal of a group called Dragon Group, which in essence is a mining venture capital group in London. Our business model is we take projects that have a resource through the mine development cycle, and then we look for exit strategies for our investors, our stock exchange listings, more senior stock exchange listings, or mergers with larger companies. And we've had a good track record of success worldwide, really. Former Soviet Union, Kazakhstan, Russian Far East, Sub-Saharan Africa, Botswana, Lesotho, and throughout South America. So I'm a mining geologist with a mine finance expertise.
And you recently undertook a robust drill program going back to Skaergaard in 2021, and recently the results have been released. Are you happy with them? Very,
very happy. The premise of us taking over Skaergaard is we took SLR as an independent consultant and went back in and resampled all the historical drilling. There's quite a weight of historical drilling we've done on the project. So we resampled that and filed a comprehensive 43-101 report in May last year, which then gave us the indication of what we needed to do to confirm and expand the deposit. Mm-hmm. Just to frame the sheer magnitude of the opportunity at Skaergaard, we already have in the 43-101 report, in indicated and inferred resources, close to 20 million palladium equivalent ounces. But when you look at the report, which is on our website, you can see that in the indicated category, we already have 4 million ounces of palladium and 1 million ounces of gold. And where it gets really exciting is, in the inferred category, we had close to an additional 10 million ounces of palladium and close to 4 million ounces of gold. So truly a project of global significance. The aim of the 2021 program was to confirm the geometry, the grades, and the widths of the existing mineralization as we knew it. And because of global warming, now over this 70 square kilometer deposit or intrusion, we now have almost 100% exposure of outcrop as well. So we were able to drill on the top of the glacier, which has retreated significantly since it was last drilled 10 or 12 years ago, and to go to areas where there's potential for open pit mining as the deposit flattens out as it goes to the north. It's a very successful drilling program. We learned a lot of how to operate in the region. It is rugged, it is remote, but in mining, in international mining terms, it's relatively accessible. We operated from a boat in one of the fjords, busing almost our geology and drillers into site. We started quite late in the season. It's a 5-month season, roughly from mid-May to end of September, in October. We started late, organising the logistics. We can all use COVID as an excuse, but it was a big factor in the delays. But we still managed to drill over 8,000 metres, 11,000 new samples, which again eventually got to Ireland, and we were pleased on the 9th of June to make the announcement, which really is, it's barely caused a ripple in this current soft market for the whole of the junior mining industry. But this is a very significant announcement, which is underpinning the whole of the work that was done historically and is confirming what we saw in the 43-101 report, and will now form a basis to go forward and bring this project along the development cycle.
Yeah, if you can get past that accessibility issue, it sounds like a very exciting
It is,
project.
but I think what we'll do, we'll learn to manage the accessibility project a lot better as we go forward with the next couple of seasons. It is a learning curve, but we can fly in from Iceland. It's a 2.5-hour flight in a Twin Otter. We've established a field airstrip, and again, for 4 or 5 months, 5 months of the year plus, it's accessible from the fjords, and the fjords are ice-free.
Definitely. So talking about advancing the mining in the area, last year Greenland blocked a project due to the presence of uranium.
Correct.
How did that kind of impact?
Well, I think it confused a lot of investors. That it became that from having initially viewed Greenland as a favourable geopolitical location, there was a lot of confusion. An election was fought over the project, which is in the southwest of the country. Again, all projects in Greenland are coastal and are only being made available now to geologists because of the retreat of the coastal ice. So it's a product of global warming. The election was fought on should there be uranium mining in Greenland. Uranium was a byproduct of a rare earth deposit, and the vote was against uranium and no uranium mining. But the government have been poised to point out, and again, we encourage them to make more public statements that as far as sustainable mining goes, we have no uranium, we have plenty of palladium and plenty of gold and a few other critical metals thrown into the mix. That we've had nothing but support from the government in terms of getting our permits for exploration. And again, there are other projects in the far north of Greenland. I would cite the Ironbark Zinc project as one of the most advanced, where they're working through from exploration to exploitation. They've had multilateral agencies such as Exim Bank from the US supporting the project, and also the Dundas project. Blue Jay is moving forward, as is the AEK Gold project in the south. So plenty of examples of how Greenland is mining friendly, but we are trying to encourage the government to get over this confusion, to come out and there's a modern mining code. 2009-2010 mining code sets out very clearly the steps to go through exploration to exploitation. And again, like everywhere in the world, we're working towards sustainable mining, which is the Canadian government criteria, which is now even overtaking the World Bank's Equator Principle as the standard. Greenland, I think, will get a lot more publicity over the next several years, and we're encouraging the government to come out, and they attended, I think, with support from some people in the mining industry. They attended the recent Prospectors and Developers Association in Toronto, which is the biggest project conference of its like in the world, and they were very articulate in how they explained Greenland to the investing public. So we're hopeful that the mix-up and the confusion over uranium mining will be a thing of the past over the next year or so. It will become apparent that Greenland is a safe, mining-friendly geopolitical destination.
Definitely. Well, it sounds promising. And could you run us through the current palladium market and where you think it is going to head?
Well, palladium prices peaked last year. They went over $3,000 an ounce, largely event-driven on the back of a flooding incident at the Norilsk mine and some power outages in South Africa. Well, Norilsk, again, is much more politically, I suppose, exposed right now, in that 40% of the world's mined palladium comes from there as a byproduct of their major nickel mines, and the other 40% comes from South Africa. So geopolitically, 40% of the world's palladium is under threat right now. And we'll see what happens when contracts are renegotiated next year. At the moment, there are no sanctions on the Rus or on their 60% owner, Mr. Patane. But we have to see. I'm not a politician. I don't intend to comment, other than I think most people are horrified by what's going on in Ukraine right now. So we think with our project, which is not grassroots exploration, we think the palladium market, it's stabilized. It's come off its highs. It's trading between $1,800 and $2,000 an ounce right now. Slightly artificially compressed by the supply chain issues in the automobile market, with chip shortages, etc. As that gets back to normal over the next 12, 15, 18 months, I think we'll see a renewed strength in the palladium market, notwithstanding what happens in the Rus. Any inflation-driven issues that affect Norilsk or affect South Africa with the energy crisis that's worldwide right now, we'll see that in a niche market like palladium, there is only a 10 million ounce a year market, of which about 7 is mined and 3 is recycled. Any supply disruption, however minor, as evidenced by the price rises last year, will give exponential rises. But fundamentally, the uses of palladium, which are still catalytic converters in vehicles, people talk about EV penetration. Of course, there will be EV penetration growing over the next decade or so, but big palladium use in hybrids and a growing palladium use and platinum use in the burgeoning hydrogen economy. So fundamentals for palladium are very strong, notwithstanding what happens with Russia. And we could see some spectacular price rises next year, but we don't need that. The predication of the 43-101 report was all predicated on underground mining. The bulk of this deposit will be mined underground, but we think with this new drilling that we have available, there is potential for Skaergaard open pits and a stage gate development, which a company like ours, still a very junior company, can handle. And my teams have a lot of experience in far-flung locations in Russia, in Kazakhstan, top of mountains in Chile, in Amazon rainforests, so we're pretty confident we can cope with the East Coast of Greenland.
Definitely, no, it sounds it. And so over the past 12 months, what key milestones would you say your company is most proud of achieving?
Well, I think completing 8,000 meters of drilling, from a slow start.
Yeah.
I mean, it was frustrating, partly COVID driven, partly us learning about the logistics of operating on the East Coast of Greenland. So very pleased about that. Bit frustrated that the results with backlogs in labs took so long to come through, but now that we've got them, we'll move forward for next steps this summer with a revised mineral resource estimate, segueing into a PEA, a preliminary economic analysis. That will put some economics, preliminary or albeit, on the deposit, and that will tell us what we have to do next season to prepare for a feasibility type drilling, sampling, test work campaign. Yeah. So we'll prepare ahead of next summer, and we'll hope to hit the ground running June 1 next year, let's say, hypothetically.
Yeah, so following on from that, in the next 12 months, what should investors be looking out for? Look
out for the revised mineral resource estimate, which, again, it's independently calculated, so it's not for me to say, but when we look at the 120-page report we already have in the project, which outlines 20 million indicated and inferred ounces, I think we'll have 20 million plus. What the plus will be, we don't know, and what the categories will be, we don't know. It's going to be independently assessed. But this is a project of global significance in the palladium and gold industry. So the steps will be revised mineral resource estimate, then preliminary econ analysis, which I think will demonstrate to the investment community and to the palladium and platinum industry that we have a world-class project. So I think then there'll be a lot more attention paid.
Yeah, no, it's a very exciting project. I look forward to seeing where it goes. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.